Morning. My name is Ron Lennox, and I'm the Rotary Club's Service Vice President. And I want to welcome our members here today and our visitors. Diego is going to mute all of our online audience so there's no interruption to our speaker. And if you are online and you have a question for our speaker, please type it into the chat window and we'll get to your questions at the end of the presentation. Has everyone walked through Centro recently? Last few days? No.
Yes. The tree.
Well, you've missed something then, because the Jardín is getting ready for Christmas. The lights are up. The lights are up not only in the Jardín, but also in surrounding streets, and it's looking like Christmas. The Christmas tree lighting ceremony has been scheduled for this Friday. Our Lady of Guadalupe happens on the 12th. Then one of my favorite times, the posadas start on the 16th. So it's really beginning to feel like Christmas here in San Miguel. The Christmas season has arrived, and Mexico is truly an extravaganza. It is a rich mix of ancient, indigenous heritage and Spanish culture. Some of the most unique and colorful traditions in the world happen here in San Miguel. Today, we've asked Aldo Ibarra from Follow Me Tours to explain some of the mysteries and questions about the celebration of Christmas in Mexico, from pre-Hispanic period to the present. Aldo, welcome.
Thank you.
To the Rotary, and please take it from here.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Once again,
Good morning.
I'm happy to be here, your guest today for doing this talk, lecture. I don't know how to call it always, but we're going to talk a little bit about the celebration of Christmas in our beautiful country here in Mexico. I decided to name this presentation for you as a year-long Christmas in Mexico. Perhaps everyone kind of like Christmas is 24th or the 25th. That's kind of like, yeah, that's Christmas. But in Mexico, Christmas has, as Ron was previously mentioning, has some origins in the Prehispanic life, similar dates in the 21st that match with the calendar when the Spanish people came, when the Spaniards came to and then nowadays the Christmas celebration is deeply attached to the religious life. So this has been extending a little bit our Christmas celebration. Ron was mentioning about the lighting of the Christmas tree this coming week. So usually kind of like in Mexico, our Christmas officially starts on the last Sunday before November 30th. And this is something we're going to learn today. This is a picture of the Piñata market in a town named Atlisco in the state of Puebla. Every year they have, they call it the Christmas Village. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place that we have been going for some years already. And this is, again, part of the colorful festivities of Christmas in our country. We're going to start talking a little bit about the Spanish origins of the celebration of Christmas in our country. The Franciscans came even before the 1520s, when we have the conquer in 1521, but the Spaniards, the friars were already here even before. Many of the friars started to build the convents, the monasteries all over the country. But there's a special place in our country that is called Acolman. Acolman is in the limits between Hidalgo and the state of Mexico. In this area, we have beautiful, beautiful convents. And there was a friar, Diego de Soria, and he's kind of like the father of Christmas in Mexico, or if not Christmas, at least the father of the posadas in Mexico. In 1587, he sent a letter here to all the way back to the Vatican and asked the Pope, Sixtus V, if they can have start celebrating the Misas de Aguinaldo. The Aguinaldo Misas are special mass celebrations that happen at midnight. And it was kind of like commemorating the pilgrimage of Joseph and Mary through the desert before the birth of Jesus on the 25th. So he sent a letter because he wanted to start celebrating 9 days before Christmas. And this is kind of like what we know nowadays as the posadas. In this little town, they also make beautiful piñatas. It's considered like the cradle of piñatas in our beautiful country. You can see they have a monument outside of the convent in this little town with the friar, Diego, hitting the original piñata or the religious piñata that we had in Mexico, which is made out of clay, of pot. It's a big pot of clay, and it has the seven like a peaks representing or symbolizing the deadly sins. The misas de Aguinaldo started to change a little bit. At the beginning, they were at midnight. Then they changed into 5 a.m. Usually, the posadas started at 5 a.m. It's a little bit crazy and very early. But for example, in the town where my grandmother used to live, still when I was a little boy, I had to attend mass service at midnight on the 24th, and we were having our Christmas dinner at 3 in the morning. 3 a.m. was our Christmas dinner. So it was really, really crazy for a lot of people, but this is kind of like, again, Mexico, we eat in a very different schedule, like in this case, yours. But part of it is because we are very attached to religious things in the calendar, in the day. So that's why we kind of like have lunch around 5 p.m. and we have late dinner. And part of it is because in the Christmas celebration, we used to have our Christmas dinner at 3 a.m. After the Christmas dinner, we were already around 5 a.m., which was the last Misa de Aguinaldo, the last kind of like Aguinaldo mass service. And this is where we presented baby Jesus into the nativity scene and put it to sleep. And we chanted the villancicos, and that was kind of like the end of Christmas. And the 25th was sleeping all day until we reheated the food leftovers at 6 p.m. But we also have an indigenous similar tradition or celebration for the Christmas. The Aztecs or Mexicas, you know, if a historian teacher was here, he will already hit me in the head. No, but the Mexicas had a different calendar system. They used to have 18 months of 20 days. The calendar system was called veintena. 20, veintena is a 20 days base calendar. So there was a special month that started on what is nowadays matching with the Gregorian or the Catholic calendar, December 21st. And it was the festivity of Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli always represented, as you can see on the image on the right, as the hummingbird. And we used to celebrate this festivity called the Panquetzaliztli. The Panquetzaliztli was kind of like celebrating the birth of Huitzilopochtli. And we used to have a pot that they used to break, and it used to have seeds, corn, amaranth, a lot of fruit, and even it had like feathers, because for the indigenous people, the feathers were so important. You can see in the images, Huitzilopochtli represented as the hummingbird and the Huitzilopochtli deity represented as a human. Take close attention at the feathers. We don't know if this image I took, bless you, from the Codex, the Mendoza Codex, if it was kind of like recreated like this, or back then, remember the colors available were green, red, and a little bit like blue and dark color, like a brown, black color. So those were basically the colors we used to have. But it kind of like matches with the colors we use nowadays for Christmas, which is the green for the Christmas tree, the red with the poinsettias, and it's kind of like the Christmas colors, red and green and some white. So Huitzilopochtli deity, the human representation of Huitzilopochtli, happens to have these colors. And again, this is kind of like help even more when the Spaniards were kind of like deeply introducing the celebration of Christmas in our country. The birth of Jesus, they kind of like started to use the colors of Huitzilopochtli, the deity form. So this is kind of like the indigenous origins, December 21st, approximately, the Panquetzaliztli celebration, honoring the birth of Huitzilopochtli. And we used to break this pot because it was kind of like the renewal of life of Huitzilopochtli. which happens to have a lot of similarities with the way the friar Diego de Soria started to have. And then, of course, the big religious celebration, after wandering through the desert and the three wise kings showed up and Joseph and Mary, they finally found a shelter in Belen, and that's kind of like what we nowadays celebrate worldwide. And again, the similarities between, you can see in the image, the dove representing the Holy Spirit, and the hummingbird representing Huitzilopochtli. The mother of Huitzilopochtli has a lot of similarities with Mary. So again, some of these similarities had been made kind of like afterwards. Again, when the Spaniards came, and many of these documents, many of these codexes, they started kind of like to disappear with the time. Like the history was rewritten afterwards. So some people have the theory, a lot of historians, very qualified historians, have the theory that this kind of like history of the indigenous people was kind of like adapted to the Spanish version. And a lot of historians say like, no, the Spanish wrote the history based upon the indigenous. But again, even nowadays, it's kind of like, you read the same news, but in a different newspaper, and it's kind of like a chaos everywhere. So try to imagine without the a big publicist back in the 2000 years ago, it was very hard to know. And then we're going to go a little bit deep in the posadas. Again, in the 1580s, the posadas were officialized with Pope Sixtus V. He sent this document, authorized the posadas starting 9 days before Christmas. But there was a time where they started to ban in the New Spain territory, what is nowadays Mexico, they started to ban the posadas. This is kind of like the way they started to represent Huitzilopochtli. No, he was a Mexican idol. You can read on the bottom Huitzilopochtli, but in the Spanish translation, Mexican idol. And they started to represent him as a devil, as a demon, as a devil creature, a demoniac creature. Look at the belly, the expression on the face. If you have seen Mask Museum here in San Miguel or everywhere in Mexico, usually this mask with like evil expressions and the big smile and the long beard were very related to the demoniac creature. So you can see how the beautiful hummingbird turned into this creature. And notice something very crazy. The kind of like the shield on the right hand and the stick on the left hand symbolizing the piñatas. So it's kind of like they start to ban piñatas, the celebrations, because people were like attending mass service, but they were still celebrating and honoring Huitzilopochtli. So that's why they started to do it, and that's a little bit in the 1700s when the piñatas started to add the religious symbolism, which is the 7 deadly sins, into it. What is the origin of the piñata? Some people have tracked piñatas all the way to China. Some people have tracked piñatas on Italy. Some people have tracked, as we mentioned before, this pot with the seeds and the amaranth and the corn, etc., for the indigenous people. The ones, even nowadays, you go to the market, to San Juan de Dios or to Ignacio Ramirez Market, and the piñatas are no longer, the clay pots, because unfortunately a lot of accidents happen on Christmas, and we had more people in the hospitals than we expected, because they used to blind your eyes and then turn you around, and you had a stick and you started like being very dizzy. And if you had been drinking even more, so you were kind of like drunk and dizzy and trying to hit the piñata. And then the guy, because usually there's 2 people on the rooftops of the houses, and they're kind of like balancing the piñata, and then they hit you in the head, and then you ended up in the hospital with a bleed and so it was complicated. Now the piñatas are made more of newspaper, paper mache, paperboard, and other materials rather than clay. Now you see superheroes, and you see like the like this coming Christmas, we have Spider-Man movies, so we're going to have a lot of Spider-Man piñatas, and last year was Baby Yoda, Yoda's piñatas, and so usually the biggest show on TV or the biggest movie, etc., is usually what we have for this, and again, you rarely and scarcely see the Seven Peaks piñatas, very colorful piñatas in these days. You can see in Acolman, the town that I mentioned before, it's literally a pot. Then they start to make the cones with the peaks in the newspaper, and then they leave them to dry, and eventually they sell them. If you go to Acolman, you will find the traditional piñata. Again, in the markets nowadays, it's really hard. But again, hard to really try to track the origin of the piñata. The Chinese said that it's theirs. The Italians, they say it's theirs because they gave the name to the thing, the piñata, which is literally translated to a pot. So the piñata is, or the piñara, is the original name that it gave the region from the south of Italy. On the posadas, it will be very common to give away candy. Usually the candy bag was full of fruit, apple, we have some pear, we have some sugar cane, we have some peanuts. We had all the ingredients that were going to be used for the ponche, no, the fruit juice that we give away for during the Christmas time, the ponche de frutas, was usually what you used to give on the back. So it was kind of like for your family, so they have something to drink. With the time, they have been changing a little bit. They started to give away candy, and you can see how kind of like a comparison. If you go like to all traditional families, you will see kind of like more the plastic bag on the right. But then you go to a very fancy posada, and you will see kind of like now the introduction of Santa Claus, you know? So it's again the syncretism that happens with indigenous, with Mexican, with foreign, with etc. So it's changing a little bit the way we celebrate the posadas and the Christmas time. And the name Aguinaldo, it comes from French Aguinaldos, which is celebrating the new year. So it was kind of like a presage for celebrating the new year. Christmas was the best time to do it. And they started to give like a basket with wine and other things. When it came to Spain and it came to Mexico, it started to change, and we added the fruit juice we give, and nowadays the candy. And then in Mexico, we have a big celebration, usually here in San Miguel, Plaza Cívica. I don't know with the new mayor where they're going to locate the Nacimiento. I haven't been aware of the news, but usually it happens on the Plaza Cívica, down the monument of Allende. They have the nativity scene. You will notice that the nativity scenes will be placed there, but the baby Jesus image will not be there. It will be Joseph, will be Mary, will be the three kings, will be the animals, will be a lot of characters in the nativity scene. Usually, this is the scene: Joseph, Mary, and the basket or the little cradle where baby Jesus will be placed on the 24th night. And with the time, they have been adding more images. So usually we set them when the posadas start, or some families on after November 30th, the last Sunday before November 30th, where we start the Advent time. The Advent time means the expectation time or the waiting time. We're waiting for the birth of Jesus. So usually the last Sunday after November 30th is in Mexico kind of like the official time for Christmas. We take the tree out of the box, we take the nativity scene out of the box, and we start placing everything in our houses. And we will not take it off until February the 2nd. So we're almost going there. But again, Christmas time in Mexico is a little bit longer than we think. With the time, they added the tradition of the three kings in Mexico we don't get really like Christmas presents. Santa Claus doesn't really come to our houses. We have to wait until January the 6th, which is the religious celebration of the Epiphany, but is basically the arrival of the three kings. Even though the kings arrive on the 25th, 24th, 25th, In Mexico, we match the celebration with the Epiphany, which is kind of like this celebration that Jesus was alive, that he survived. So we always talk about the three wise kings, Casper or Gaspar, who brought the incense, Melchior that brought gold, and Balthasar that brought the myrrh or myrrh. The myrrh was basically kind of like an incense rock to kind of like scare the bad spirits away. The gold, of course, representing the fortune, and the incense that brought Gaspar was again to kind of like to welcome the new birth. But in recent years, a lot of archaeologists, a lot of historians, they have been mentioning about the missing king, which was Artaban. Artaban happened to be the Persian king because the other kings represent China, represent Europe, represent Africa, but the Persian Empire was represented by Artaban. Artaban got not lost in the desert, but when he started to follow the star, he started to saw poverty, despair, famished people in the desert. So he started to sell his tributes and give away his money to help all these people. So he didn't make it to the appointment at Belen. So legend says that at the end of his life, when he was older person, he finally met Jesus. And when he found out that he was Jesus, he told him, it's like, oh my Lord, I failed you. I didn't make it to the appointment. And Jesus said, like, no, you were the best of the other because you help all these people. So it's again, it's not a new story, but it's kind of like archaeologists and historians are now documenting a little bit more about the fourth king who helped the people. Here we have some images of Nacimientos, again, with the artisans and handcrafts in Mexico. We have been adding colorful and modern situations, like these taxi bicycle drivers in Mexico City. And look at the way Joseph and Mary are represented, the kings, etc. They are big. We have representing all the stages, the Annunciation, the time at the desert, the things that were complicated. On the bottom left, you see kind of like a cave representing the devil. So now the nativity scenes have been growing so big that is really a little bit crazy. The tree of life, again, represented here with the nativity scene. In the middle part, you can see the Holy Spirit and the birthday of Jesus. So again, the artisans in Mexico, they had been making a lot of these new modifications to the images of the Nacimientos. And of course, we have real human-sized figures. Usually you will see this outside of the churches. The churches have these big images. And in Mexico City, every year there's an annual contest. They invite families and they brought out like to place nativity scenes in the terms of the churches and always celebrations. And we were talking about, the presentation is named A Year-Long Christmas Celebration in Mexico. Usually will be over 25th, presents, that's it. Some people start putting back in the box the Christmas tree around the world on the 25th, on the 26th. But in Mexico, we extend a little bit the celebration. I was mentioning before with the Advent time, we start the celebration of Christmas, the expectation, the waiting for Jesus. Then we have the posadas, this liturgical celebration that we honor the pilgrimage of Joseph and Mary. Then on the 24th is we call it Christmas. Navidad for Mexicans is on the 24th, because that's when we have the big dinner. We invite people to come our house and we put baby Jesus to sleep on the nativity scene. And then on January 6th, which is worldwide the Epiphany, and Spain, Portugal, Mexico, and other Latin American countries, we have the Three Kings arrival. And usually at the morning, the kids get their presents under the Christmas tree, but at night or later that day, in the offices, and where you work, at home, etc., we bring the king's bread. No, this big round king's bread that La Comer started to sell back in October. I don't know why, but and sometimes they're big Christmas bread, or sometimes the smaller ones, depending on the size of people, the number of people you invite home. But when they're making the dough, the bakers, they put these images of baby Jesus inside the dough, and it's cooked with the baby Jesus inside. And usually the tradition says that whoever cuts the piece and gets the first image of baby Jesus, he has 3 big commitments throughout the year. Number 1, be responsible of the image of baby Jesus that it was placed on the nativity scene in that the family who invited you. And being responsible of him is buying a new wardrobe for him, taking care for the whole year until the next Christmas happens, and take it to the temple to be kind of like rebaptized on February the 2nd. So that's the first big commitment, getting in charge of this image. That in some cases, like in my family, my mom stopped doing it because the image of baby Jesus is 140 years old. So it's a very old, antique image of baby Jesus. And my mom is a little bit scared that it may break or something. So she kind of like stopped the tradition. But that's one of the first commitments. The second commitment is to take responsibility of the Paschal candle. The Paschal candle usually lights up on Holy Saturday, but it's the same image candle that we're going to use all year long. And finally, number 3, to bring tamales on February the 2nd. So you have to bring tamales and atole for the families on February the 2nd. Here we have an image of these celebrations. All these people carrying the images of baby Jesus, most of them are the godparents of the image of baby Jesus. I was mentioning before, the first big commitment is to take responsibility of this image. So we have to see how elaborate are the wardrobes and the dresses and the hats and the clothes and etc. So it's really crazy how this celebration, this tradition happens on February the 2nd. Which again happens on the Candela Day. For the religious celebration means the day of the candles. So again, we have to bring the Paschal candle that day to be blessed. We have also the day of the corn, the beginning of the corn festival for the indigenous people. That's why the tamales and the atole. And in many families nowadays, we kind of like February 2nd, usually they move it to the Sunday because again, Sunday is a big religious day. But usually the closest Sunday on February 2nd, February 5th, etc., happens to be the Super Bowl. So now we kind of like celebrate Super Bowl with baby Jesus, with tamales, with so the syncretism going on there is kind of like very weird, but it's the way it happens. And sometimes, and maybe you won't believe me, but they dress the baby Jesus with the T-shirt of their team if it's playing the Super Bowl. So you see a Tom Brady baby Jesus with a baby, so it's crazy. It's really, really crazy how we do it. And we have this to illustrate a little bit more about the candle, the Paschal candle. On mass service last Sunday, 2 days ago, in the churches, they started to light up the 4 candles before to await for the birth of Jesus. So usually we have 4 candles to be lit up, and on Christmas Day we lit the Paschal candle. So again, the way the reason I call this the year-long Christmas, because it's very attached to the faith. So on Good Saturday, usually you bring a new candle. You buy outside of the church, you buy the new Paschal candle. And it's going to be blessed with the eternal fire. Usually the parroquia is the only church that in San Miguel that does this celebration. 8 p.m. on Holy Glory Saturday, they lit up a big pot of fire. Then you brought your Paschal candle that you bought previously on the church. And the Father is going to bless the cross, is going to bless the fire, is going to bless the people. And this candle will be the same candle used in all the religious celebrations all year long. And the last celebration will be February the 2nd, the Candela Day, the day of the candles. So that's why kind of like Christmas in a way is a little bit attached to the celebration of for the year long, because the same candle will be brought on the Transfiguration of the Christ, on Corpus Christi Day. It's going to be celebrated on the Advent. It's going to be on Christmas Day, on January the 6th, the Epiphany, the baptism on the 13th, and the Candela Day on February the 2nd. So it's the same candle that we're going to lit up the first time on Glory Saturday, that is going to happen or walk with us all year long. And usually a lot of people uses the candle for Christmas celebration. So that's why kind of like decided to name this presentation a year-long Christmas, because again, it's not only the 24th and 25th, officially last Sunday after November 30th until February the 2nd, but some families extend a little bit more this tradition. And some of them, they bring the image of baby Jesus on Glory Saturday to be also blessed with a candle, because it's representing or symbolizing this. And previous Christmas, another time we use the Paschal candle is on Day of the Dead, because it's matching the resurrection of the Christ. And that's why it has a big symbolism also for Day of the Dead. So the Paschal candle, if you have one at home, is kind of like a very powerful image for the religious Catholic people in Mexico. And Catholic people, we have this idea that kind of like when the apocalypse happens, the only candles that will be illuminating will be the Paschal candle and the candles on the Advent crown. So again, so this is fine. Just to finish this presentation, again, how this celebration of Christmas has been modified, and to make it a little bit funnier or etc. We have a thing called the Marathon Guadalupe Reyes. Guadalupe because it starts on December 12th, Reyes because it's supposed to end on January the 6th. Here you can see they make fun, which is kind of like a drinking thing, that you start drinking on the 12th and you end up drinking on the 6th. Look how they modify the image with the guy actually running in marathon, but instead of a lot of people have searched this marathon also like a spiritual one. Is a time to pray, is a time to stop doing things that some people consider bad. People who smoke, is like a good time to stop smoking. People who drink, is a good time to stop drinking. People who are a little bit away of faith, is a good time to go back to faith, for reflection, for retrospective, and think about the things you're doing wrong and start doing good things, and what a best way to do it, which is on Christmas. So this is the way I would like to end. Again, if you have questions here or in our virtual community, I will be very happy to answer them.
Gary.
When did the hummingbird disappear?
The hummingbird disappears in the 1700s, 1750s, 1780s, as a big celebration, for the indigenous people. If you go to these towns in Mexico City, outside of Mexico City, especially the south, well, not the south because it's more center, but Xochimilco, Coyoacán, you will still see the veneration to Huitzilopochtli. But in the 1780s, 1790s, that was the time they stopped on venerating Huitzilopochtli.
So if I visited Chiapas, it would probably still be there?
Probably Chiapas, no, because Huitzilopochtli is a deity for the Aztecs or the Mexicas. They started to expand it, but then with the 1780s ban, they started to reduce it. And
A question in the room?
I think I saw one on the chat. Let me see one. Check. Let me read. We live close to traditional San Juan de Dios Mercado, and often during the day of Christmas Eve, we see mostly men carrying around an unclothed baby Jesus, doing other shopping, etc. But it's kind of like we're with our family, and all year long we're on pants and, like very, not that fancy, but on Christmas Day we buy a tuxedo sometimes, you buy a nice dress, we dress very fancy and elegant, and the same for baby Jesus. We have to present him very, very elegant. And I have seen, like, we haven't got to the point that Dolce and Gabbana is designing something, for baby Jesus, but we have beautiful, beautiful wardrobes with people. So it's a big, nice celebration we have in Mexico. Why does everybody wait until January 5th to shop for the kids? Well, we always do last minute things in Mexico. It's kind of like our exam is due tomorrow. We study the night before. Our essay is due tomorrow. We started at 3 a.m. So I made my presentation 6 a.m. today. No, I'm kidding. But we're always waiting for the last minute, and usually they make bigger discounts in the stores, and they have the La Mega is going to open until 3 a.m. that day. So usually you find better offers and discounts on January 5th rather than a little bit before planning your anticipated shopping. Something else? And well, just a random fact about Christmas. 1930, we had a president in Mexico named Pascual Ortiz Rubio. Pascual Ortiz Rubio thought it was a good idea to have a guy. He built up like a pyramid in Mexico City, kind of like a paperboard structure that he built like a pyramid, and he had a throne on the top, and it was Quetzalcoatl on the bottom. So he was representing Quetzalcoatl, but he was dressed like Santa Claus. A lot of people were like really mad at this because Quetzalcoatl Claus, I don't know how he was planning to name him, but Quetzalcoatl dressed as Santa Claus started to do this celebration and giving away the presents to the kids. And it was a big parade. You can actually look for it, and you will see images of the big parade of the children. And then they were marching, and the president was there. The wife of the president was there, which is Quetzalcoatl, Santa Claus was there sitting, giving away the presents. And the people criticized it a lot, especially historians, archaeologists, people in the academy criticized it a lot. And they kind of like, the next year it didn't happen, but Coca-Cola, which is again a very important part of the Mexican life, they saw it as a good Christmas thing in Mexico. So we have nowadays we even have like trains, that the Coca-Cola rents the Kansas City Southern train in other parts of Mexico. And they, of course, they branded with Coca-Cola signs and not painted in red or put like stickers on red. And it's the caravan of Coca-Cola since 1931. So again, Coca-Cola is also part of our Christmas celebration since 1931. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Aldo, I really, do we have any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, one here.
We
Okay.
have a pretty incredible event that takes place in Parque Alameda in Mexico City every year,
Yeah.
with 40 or 50 different booths where they set up and all the children and expat adults go to have their picture taken, and in each booth they'll have like a nativity plus Santa Claus plus a Mexican wrestler. All of us. Is that between Christmas and New Year, or is it before Christmas?
It's usually before the 6th. So it's after Christmas and between the 24th and the 6th of January 6th.
Okay, so it's in Parque Alameda, Mexico City. It is one of my favorite things I've ever done. Christmas in Mexico. It's really super.
It's really great. Okay.
Skip.
All right. All righty. Thanks, Aldo. I appreciate it. Very, very informative presentation. I learned a lot. The one thing I didn't hear you talk about, but it probably doesn't have a lot to do with Christmas. It happens all the time in San Miguel and probably other Mexican villages and cities, and that is the mortars that continually go off with just about every holiday. And I imagine we'll probably hear a lot of mortars coming up, particularly when the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe happens. Can you tell us briefly how that tradition began with these firecrackers and mortars going off?
Usually, the pyrotechnic in Mexico starts in the late 1880s, 1890s approximately. Some historians have the theory that it was kind of like, again, to scare the devil away, even though we don't have, we have all these religious celebrations and Day of the Dead, for example. We talk or mention a little bit about devil creatures, but we don't have like a specific date where we kind of like fight the devil. Usually could be similar to Glory Saturday that we have in the Jardín, for example, the big paper mache figures, and we fill them with firecrackers and then we burn them and explode them. So again, it's symbolizing to get rid of the evil forces. So since we have like the piñatas, that's kind of like what we do. So we don't have an exact date or a reason why we start to have firecrackers all year long, really, but it's basically associated to religious festivities. And some people also said that, I don't know if you have seen sometimes now that we have the traffic lights here, or Salida Celaya back here, there's where La Corona is, there's a little between the trees, a guy who's selling like Christmas decoration, but they have these big sticks of pólvora, powder, like the gunpowder. And again, this is kind of like the kids were kind of like announcing the arrival of Jesus. So the firecrackers were mostly like lighting up with these big metal sticks covered with gunpowder. But now kids love firecrackers. So 1880s is a little bit similar. An accurate date where we start to have firecrackers for Christmas, but for sure we don't have like something exactly for that.
Okay. Well, Aldo, thank you for joining us today, and to show our appreciation, the Midday Rotary Club of San Miguel de Allende has something for you, and hopefully we can put it up on the screen here. There it is. All right. This certificate of appreciation to Aldo Ibarra for your presentation to our club. A donation of 10 polio immunizations will be made in your honor to the End Polio Now campaign. We will email this certificate to you, and we thank you for being here. And we hope you have a very, very, just a very, very blessed holiday season. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's a great.
All right. Next Tuesday will be our annual club meeting. We are certainly encouraging all of our members to join us for this very, very important meeting. And on the 14th, the last meeting of 2021. Ron, what do we have?
We have Ian Clement, an immigration attorney here in Mexico, and he's going to talk about some recent changes in the immigration or tourist visas coming into Mexico.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending. Appreciate you being here today. Yes, John, go ahead.
I don't know if everyone's aware, but Rotarian June Oliver had a nasty fall and broke her shoulder and was in hospital. Mike is now home recuperating, and I think
he's with us.
I'd like to wish her a speedy recovery. And I know husband Michael will be taking good care of you, June, and doing all the things around the house.
Wow.
Come back to us soon and speedy recovery.
Well, she's with
All
us
right.
today. Yeah.
She is where?
She's on Zoom.
There you are, June. Speedy recovery. Oh, my Lord. Ouch. Good heavens. Okay. All right, everybody, have a great week, and we will see our Rotarians for our annual club meeting next Tuesday. This meeting is adjourned.